Hi guys, and I'm starting a new video today. I would like to continue what I've started the other day with my video about how to start a song and how to get there. We're gonna develop our idea, and also I'm gonna try to discuss about the different problems that you can have when you start a track, or the next time you open your session and you work on it. There's gonna be a few traps that you might fall into, so I'm gonna try to discuss that as well. So if we remember, last time I had developed a structure, and first thing was to build a percussive pattern that would develop through time. I decided some kind of structure by deciding the speed of the track, also the length, and based on that I would drop different ideas that I have. And then with these ideas I started with a really simple synth part, and then I added a previously recorded sound design that I've done into another session of mine, and from there we have something that sounds like this. Whenever I open a project and I hear a very simple idea, sometimes I will be judging what I've done. I will be, oh, this is not good, this is not good enough, and there's something wrong with it. Well, that can be a trick because it's your brain that is not feeling really comfortable with the main idea, and of course it has in mind all this music that you've been listening to in the past weeks. Maybe you've listened to music before getting in the studio, so what you have there is not done at all, and you can get lost thinking and comparing yourself, and eventually you'll get discouraged. So first thing is, whenever you notice your brain saying, oh, this is not good enough and it's a shitty idea or something like that, just be like, okay, well, I'm going to give myself a break and try to work on this beforehand. So I added this idea. But since this is the core, and I'm going to try to start from, like, I like to see my sounds as a scale. I'll start with the lower sounds, which is the fundamentals of your song, and then add until you get to a higher pitch sound. And if your lower end is more precise and defined, then whatever you will add on top of that will be in harmony with what you have as your fundamentals and of course the basis. So I kind of like this idea. It's not perfect, but I like it. So I'm going to keep in mind a few different things. There's different kind of ideas and repetition in music. One of the first is to have a very short repeating sound, which I kind of called a mantra, like it's something you repeat on and on and on. If you do that in terms of sound idea, you will want your percussion to be a little bit longer than the loop, so that if the brain of the listener is focused on the idea, the mantra that repeats, eventually it will be like, okay, I understand what's going on, so what else is in there? And then it will see that the percussion is a little bit more elaborated, and it will kind of go from one to the other. The way that we perceive sound in general is we'll try to identify something that is kind of familiar, and after that, once the brain is familiar and feel familiar, well, I don't want to repeat myself, but when it's more comfortable with that, then it will find other elements and see the interaction that all the sounds have together. So in this case, so we see that we have a phrase. It's not a mantra, it's a phrase. It's a little bit longer. Please note that I'm using mantra. I don't want to offend anyone that is religious or something like that. It's just a simple personal word that I use. So feel free to use any words that you want. So in this case, my idea here is a phrase. It's way longer than the usual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it with my main idea here. So when your idea is longer than a simple one bar idea, your percussion can be really simple, because the brain will focus on this idea and see that in time it develops, and then and realizes that the percussion is extremely simple, so it will just focus on the details that you're listening here. So this is very simple. So we can add a mantra to that. We can add like something like a one bar sound that can be interesting. And for that, I'm going to go check into my sound design that I have, and I'm going to chop this up with Apple E, and then I'll take this part and I'll drop it there. And I'm going to find a one bar idea, something very simple. Of course, not mute, but I want something really So now you see that this very simple idea is in interaction with this one that develops over multiple bars. So it's kind of a different relationship. And the great thing is that when you work on sound design, one of the most fun aspects of sound design is to not really think precisely of the sound that you want. You will want to play with the knobs, you will want to play with whatever's in front of you and see how the sound morphs, and you record everything that you do. And then after that, you end up with a really long take like this, which is kind of jamming, you know? And sometimes you find really weird moments, sometimes really cool ones. And in this case, this one is not really satisfying my exactly what I want. I would like something more of a pad or a synth or a gentle atmosphere, something very simple. So I'm gonna explore a little bit. Here I added some songs that are going to be referentials. What are reference tracks? Reference tracks are tracks that I will use to test my song. This is one thing that not many tutorials will tell you, or producers, but you can make a song, which is, there's so many ways to do it, but you will want to have a reference track. Reference tracks are tracks that you like, and you will test them over the track that you're working on. These reference will sort of allow you to adjust your percussion and sometimes the tone of your track, or maybe change the way that the sounds come in and out. I'll do a demonstration of that a little bit later on when we have a little bit more elements to add to it. So in the meantime, I'm going to add a MIDI, and I'm just going to go in my instruments. I'm going to put a pad, see what we have here, and I'm going to go in analog pad. There's tons of possibilities, and something glassy sounds really appealing. Please note that I find that in sound design, starting with a preset is a really shortcut to get to somewhere fast. If you can, when you have time, you can spend time developing your own presets, and eventually you start from there. But just for the sake of this tutorial, and also because I don't want to unveil all my tricks, but I'll start with something really simple. This I like. So I'll drop it here. And push is great. It's really one of the best controller that you can have whenever you want to just explore some quick ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the scales. I'm going to go with in C, but I'm going to change the scale to Mixolydian. And of course, I'm going to make sure that I loop here. And like I said, I'm going to record my take and then I'm going to play some notes, different ideas that I will have. Play different notes as well. And on the fly, I'll drop something else. I've recorded my things, and we have here now all the sounds that we have from this. So what I'll do is I'm gonna first split this and put it here. This is the first batch of sound. This is another one. And as you see, I have different recordings. I was just playing with the sounds, you know, and I was not really being careful, and this is an accident, and it's a nappy one. I like what I hear. On top of that, I'm going to use a filter. well. Just gonna move this like that. I'm gonna get a little bit of an envelope. And see, we have a second idea that I can play with. And if I drop it here, then I have that. And plus, the great thing of having effects is I can automate this and play with what I have here. And this can be automated into my ideas. And then I will have something like that. It will be more of my idea. And over time, I can make this evolve like that. Because after that I can control the volume. And I can also come here and play with frequency, automation. See, we have something else that enters right here. This one will come in, but again, I like to do stuff with come in gently in so that the person that listens will see that there's an evolution, and as it gets familiar and okay, this is coming in, this is coming out, okay, cool. So if you add the sound really discreetly, then eventually what will happen is the attention of the listener will jump from one sound to the other. Eventually, in the background, something comes in and be like, oh, wow, where does this come from? When did it started to come in? And to do that, you can just come in super, super slowly. And this is really, really fun because it just becomes really subtle as well. And playing with subtleties like that is what makes a sound really hypnotizing in the end. So in that case, we got I should do the same thing with this. again, in the exploration mode, which is what I'm doing right now, it's more important to work on ideas than focusing on trying to make everything work together. So when I feel ready or when I feel comfortable with my ideas, then I will start working on the arrangements. But the first part of your song where the listener will be more getting familiar with what's the idea, where are you going with all that, it's very important to have a good base and a good solid ground so that it's supported throughout the entire song. And it's pretty often that if a song has a really good groove and something that is just working well and doesn't feel boring, then you don't need to add that much. And whatever you whatever you add on top of that will be extras and will make the song being supported more and more interesting. But sometimes I listen to podcasts and the DJs are playing loops. It's really, really simple loops. And the fun part for a DJ is to take those loops and assemble something together. So you don't need to add that much. You can if you want, which can be really beautiful for a song to listen as it is. But sometimes it's also good to leave room for the DJ to take this tool and insert it into another set of audio loops that can be really useful for his sets. Another trick that I like is to do little kind of tweaks inside the envelopes of the volume. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink it. Adding really deep bass. So I'll come back to this part here. I'm gonna go get sub bass. I can also just take this sound and pitch it down, but then it won't be really perfect, but we can see what it sounds like. So it's kind of strange, but it gives you an idea of what it would sound really, really low pitch to as well. And in this sound, there's like something that I want to cut off, so I'm going to put an auto filter. That's better. Send to reverb. Now with reverb, usually what I want to do is I'll put a reverb in sand so that the reverb is pretty much the same thing for the entire song. So now I'm going to add my see the span, which I thought I liked, starting to get a little bit on my nerves. That's not a good sign. So I'm gonna try with reverb. I'm gonna try to lower it down a bit, and I'll see if okay, so I have something, it's starting. It's not perfect, but it's starting. Now, what I was telling you is the reference tracks. I have a few here. First thing is, I'm just gonna solo this. I'm gonna make sure that there's headroom. These ones are a bit too intense. This one's cool, so I'm gonna take like lower down, fume. So as you see, this is a good indication of what the DJ will hear when it will play my song with something else that it has into his library. And I want to make the experience for the DJ really cool. So I'm going to tweak my song as much as possible so that it's going to sound with a bunch of tracks that I love. And I know that my song, when it's played with this and this and this and this, and there's something really cool that comes out of that. And you know, I have the vision that there's soul sisters for each song. Each song has like a few different options that when they match, they sound amazing together. And it's pretty often that DJs will contact me and say, hey, I tried your track with this song and it's like made in heaven. And I'm like, wow, this is great feedback. And this is the kind of feedback that I want, because DJs will want to play my song over and over and over again, because they will want to test it with this song, with this song, with this song. And you know, if you can make a song that is actually sounding good with so many tracks, when you have this track that will be really useful. So this was my trick of the day, and I hope it helps, and we'll make a new video at some point. And in the meantime, work on your ideas.